I didn't realize it at the time. Lying here in this cold hospital bed, the test results shaking in my hands. Stage 3 colon cancer. Everything finally clicked into place. Margaret was sitting right beside me, gently wiping the sweat from my forehead with that cool cloth she always used. Michael hadn't left the room for 36 hours straight. His eyes were tired, but he kept watching me like he was afraid I'd disappear if he blinked. And Jessica? She had only sent one short text. "How's Dad doing? Any news on the house papers?" That one message. It landed heavier than the doctor's words. My name is Robert Harlan, 58 years old. For 14 long years, suspicion and greed had been quietly killing me from the inside, long before this cancer ever showed up. It all started after my older brother betrayed me. He forged documents and stole nearly everything I had built in my small auto parts company. My first wife used the divorce to take the house and half my savings. After that, I stopped believing in blood. I stopped believing that anyone could love me without wanting something in return. I became the man who memorized Margaret's passwords while she slept. The man who secretly paid a private investigator to follow Michael for 3 weeks. The man who stayed up until 3 a.m. cross-checking every bank statement, every small transfer, hunting for the tiniest sign that they were all just waiting for me to die. I told myself I was protecting what was left of my family. But deep down, I knew I was slowly tearing it apart. 18 months ago, the first real cracks appeared. It was our wedding anniversary. Margaret had spent the whole day making my favorite pot roast with mashed potatoes and gravy. The house smelled warm and familiar. Michael drove 2 hours just to be there. Jessica showed up late, smiling that sweet, familiar smile she always put on when she needed something. We were halfway through dinner when Jessica leaned across the table and said casually, "Dad, with the market going crazy these days, maybe we should put the house in my name? Just for safety, you know?" I smiled back at her, but inside, that old familiar poison started whispering again. She's already planning what to do when I'm gone. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in my study until dawn, staring at the computer screen. I checked everything again. Then I made a quiet call to my old notary, Mr. Whitaker. "I want to transfer 60% of the house and the main investment accounts into Jessica's name," I told him. "Just in case." He looked at me over his glasses for a long time. "Robert, your son Michael has been the one handling most of the bills lately. Are you sure?" I waved it off. "I'm just being careful." I signed the papers that week. I felt safer, in control. But Jessica wasn't always like this. 5 years ago, when I had that scary heart episode, she dropped her job for 2 whole months. She slept on the couch in my room every night, holding my hand through every test, calling me Daddy again, like she was 10 years old. That memory still hurts the most now. The months after I signed those papers grew colder and heavier. At another family dinner a few weeks later, Margaret tried to talk to me gently. "Robert, you've been so distant lately. We're supposed to be a team. What's really going on?" I barely looked up from my plate. "Nothing, just tired." Michael offered to help fix the leaking roof the next weekend. I grunted a thank you, but inside I was thinking, he's just positioning himself closer to the house. Jessica started visiting less. When she did come, her eyes were always glued to her phone. She asked about the will more often, about life insurance, about what happens when you're gone, Dad. Each time she asked, the suspicion grew louder in my head. I started locking my study door even when I was home. I should have seen it coming, but I was too busy building walls to notice I was locking everyone out. Then the stomach pain began. Sharp, relentless cramps that woke me up at night. I ignored it for weeks, told myself it was just stress from running the numbers every day, until the bleeding started. I drove myself to the hospital alone that morning. I didn't want them to see me weak. The results came back faster than I expected. Stage 3. 2 nights later, I was lying here, half asleep from the pain meds, when I heard voices outside my door. It was Jessica, low and urgent on the phone. "Yeah, the papers Dad signed are already in my name. I can pull the equity loan next week. Just keep quiet until, he doesn't have much time left anyway." For a second, I couldn't breathe. Not because of the cancer, but because my own daughter was waiting for it to finish the job. My heart monitor started beeping wildly. Margaret and Michael were right there in the room with me. They heard every single word. Somewhere along the way, I had taught her that love was measured in money, and she learned it better than I ever intended. I had created this monster with my own hands. The next morning, I asked Mr. Whitaker to come to the hospital. I rewrote everything in silence. The house went back to Margaret and Michael. I set up a trust for my wife. Michael got enough to finally start the small tech company he had been dreaming about for years. Jessica. I left her a modest amount, enough to help if she ever chose to change. When she stormed into the room that afternoon, eyes flashing with anger, demanding to know why the accounts were frozen, I looked at her calmly and said, "I still love you, Jessica. But I won't let fear and greed take one more day from this family." She cried. She blamed everyone but herself. I didn't argue back. Later that evening, when the room grew quiet again, Margaret placed a thick folder gently on my lap. "Robert, there's something you need to see." Inside were printed emails, job offers from 3 different companies, business plans Michael had worked on late at night for years. "He could have left many times," Margaret whispered. "Some of the offers were really good." I looked up, confused. "Then why didn't he?" Margaret met my eyes. Her voice was soft but steady. "Because he didn't want to leave me alone with you." She took a slow breath. "I spoke to those investigators more than once. I asked them to be careful with what they told you. I was afraid that if you saw how badly Michael wanted to leave, you would break even more. I protected this family from you." I wasn't protecting my family. They had been protecting each other from me. The woman I had suspected the most had been quietly enduring my darkness for years, not by controlling everything, but by shielding the people she loved from the man I had become. Right after that, Michael spoke for the first time in a long while. His voice was quiet but clear. "Dad, I turned down those offers because I kept hoping you'd see me one day, not as a threat, just as your son. But every time I tried to get closer, you pulled further away, so I stayed. For Mom. And maybe a small part of me still hoped the old Dad would come back. That hit harder than anything else." 3 weeks later, I was discharged, thinner, weaker, but finally seeing things clearly for the first time in years. We sold the big, empty house that had felt more like a fortress than a home. We bought a smaller one with a nice garden. Margaret planted the flowers she had wanted for so long. Michael comes over every weekend now. We sit on the porch and talk. Really talk, without passwords, without suspicion, without hidden checks. Jessica called last month. Her voice was breaking. She had lost the apartment. Her boyfriend had left. She said she was sorry, that she never meant for things to go this far. I told her the truth. I had finally learned the hard way. My suspicion stole 14 years from all of us. I won't let it steal one more. The cancer may take my body one day, but the suspicion and greed already took 14 years of my life. I won't let them take one more. Looking back, that diagnosis didn't just reveal the tumor growing inside me. It revealed the tumor I had become. And even now, I'm still learning how to live without him. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I wonder, how many families stay together not because trust comes easily, but because someone loves enough to keep standing in the storm, even when the storm is me?